Hey podcaster, I'm Tim Wahlberg, your podcast performance coach with another actionable tip so you can sound like a pro and gain more podcast fans. Today's tip is all about how to extro your guest. Now this is different from how to extro your show, which I'll address in an upcoming podcast. Today is all about what to do when you're done with your guest. In the past, I've heard something like this.
Oh, well, thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it today. It's just been absolutely wonderful.
It's been just a real honor to speak with you, and your audience. Just incredible
session. On behalf of my audience, I'd like to say thank you. You're super informative. Just love what I'm hearing from you. Just incredible.
My wife and 3 kids and dog Spanky would really like to thank you.
Tell Spanky he's always welcome on the show.
Even worse than that, I've heard nothing at all. Thanks for being on the show. Great, thanks again. And then that's it. And you've just disappeared, and you've left your listener hanging. Hello? Remember me, your listener? Take care of your guest and your listener at the same time by wrapping things up. You may want to start by recapping a few of the takeaways from your listener. And by the way, you can listen to episode 6 on demanding a takeaway for more on that. The most important thing is that you have your extro scripted. Write out your entire extro because there's a lot to include and you want to get it right. After you recap the takeaways, repeat the name and title of your guest. Then, how does your listener reach your guest if they want more information? This is your job, not your guest's job. Don't tell them to do this at the end of your show or ask them the best way for someone to reach them. This is your job. Don't even give them a chance to do it. And don't let your guest railroad your show by doing this. They'll go on forever if you let them. If they do manage to do that, edit it out in post. This is your show, remember. What you want to include is most likely their website. You can get into Twitter, Pinterest, and Facebook, but this is the stuff that you have to find out ahead of time. I usually ask my guests before we start the show, after your website, what social media do you use the most? And I plug only that one. Make sure you have their most relevant book title or workshop info correct as well. You can plug that as long as it's relevant to the show you just did and tell your audience that there's a link in your show notes. Don't go plugging that money expert's first book titled Snowshoeing with Cats. It's not relevant, so stay focused on your topic and your listener. Now, I've done some podcasts where I've recorded the extro after the interview, but I've learned I get a little more love back from my guest when I do it as part of the recording. They get to hear the love from me, so they're more inclined to share or post this podcast when it gets released. I may have even expanded on what a great website they have with a super useful interactive tool at the bottom of their page that my listener will love, that I know my listener will use and appreciate. Only if I really feel it's relevant. Don't go blowing smoke just for the sake of blowing smoke. You want to get all this information before we start the show. Yes, this is stuff you should already know, but you're confirming it with your guest so you get it right. Remember, you've already written out all this as part of your script. Just fill in the blanks like the missing holes you've left for their favorite social media platform. And when you're all done, all you have to say is, thanks for being on the show. They say goodbye, and you carry on with your show extro. That's the stuff about you and your show and your products and your services. Again, I'll talk about your show extro in an upcoming episode. And at the end of it, when you're editing, if it all feels a little too pluggy, edit some of it out. A well-crafted guest extro will not only make you sound more like a pro, but make your guest feel respected and appreciated, and more importantly, make your listener feel taken care of and informed. And I hope that's just the tip you need. Your guest extro is just one part of my 40-point checklist you'll receive after I critique one of your podcasts. Included in that same critique package is a half-hour Skype session where I break it all down and give you specific exercises and tips on ways to make your podcast stand out from the rest. Check out my coaching packages at podcastperformancecoach.com. I'm Tim Wahlberg. See ya!